I'm going to warn you up front, we're going to do some arithmetic. Some of your heads might actually just explode. Well, I hope not. I hope you can handle. We're going to subtract two numbers and then we're going to divide two numbers. That's going to be the extent of the arithmetic that we do here. Nothing beyond that. So hopefully you're going to be okay with it. You know, the topic of porosity comes up quite a bit in YouTube videos. You see it a lot. You'll see people dumping things in their metal. We dump salt. We dump, I don't know, people, I think they dump borax, cake mix, whatever. They'll dump it in the metal to degas the metal. And the idea is, as we're melting things with a propane burner, especially I melt with diesel, and I expect it's got the exact same problem. As we're burning gases, one of the artifacts is going to be other gases that can get entrained inside that metal. With propane, it's certainly a hydrogen that can get in there. And we have hydrogen in our metal. When we pour, that hydrogen is going to stay in the casting, and it's going to manifest itself as porosity. Best case for most of the kinds of things that we pour, that porosity stays inside and you don't see it on the surface. But a lot of times it does show up on the surface as pits or little holes, like little pinholes on your surface and things like that. And we want to try to minimize that. In the industrial world where they're making castings that people's lives depend on, porosity is a big deal because you don't want to have metal that has got flaws in it, that it's going to have air bubbles. It's not going to be as dense as you expect it to be, and that'll make it weaker. So they're very concerned about it. I got a buddy named Nate who runs a foundry, and then he actually is part owner of another foundry, and he was at a conference at a place called the Foundry Way, just outside of Cincinnati, Ohio, a couple of weeks ago. And while he was there, he sent me a video of this device. It's called a PAS 3000. I think it was actually 3000A is what you'll see on the device itself. But it's a PAS 3000 made by a company called Palmer Manufacturing. And its whole purpose in life is to tell the foundry how much gas is in this metal that they're melting. And what you can do is you can take a sample, and you'll see, you saw in the video there, they take a sample, looks very much like one of these, put it on this in the device, and it'll come back and give you a specific gravity of that sample. Well, specific. I have trouble with this, and I'm going to say it a lot like that. Specific gravity is a ratio of density of the sample to the density of water, and I'm going to use the term density because, frankly, it's easier for me to say. And they're really kind of, for what we're doing today, they're really going to be the same thing. Specific gravity is a ratio, so you don't see things like grams per cubic centimeter involved. It's just a number, so it's just a ratio. We're going to have density, which is going to be measured in weight per volume. And bringing that up, weight per volume is the calculation for density. So if the calculation is density equals mass divided by volume. Well, we can get, before I'm getting ahead of myself, I looked at the device that Nate sent me the video of, and I thought, I bet I could build one of those and do a test. So I put something together, I cobbled, I bent some metal, and I hung the thing, and I did all this stuff, and it didn't work. Of course it didn't work. So I sent Nate a couple of pictures and said, what am I doing wrong here? And he said, oh, here's what you're doing wrong. And so he sent me this picture here. And this is how the device, the Palmer PAS 3000, is put together. I don't want to belittle it. It's an industrial tool that they sell. So I'm going to simplify it for my needs and for your needs. What you see in this picture here is a green structure that is sitting on top of a scale. The scale's down at the bottom, and the green structure is sitting up on top of the scale, sitting on the scale itself. And with that structure, they're able to weigh the sample above the water, as you'll see there too, and get a weight or a mass of the sample above water, and then they can submerge it in the water and get a weight of the object submerged in water. The water itself is isolated from the whole scale setup, right? So the water itself is not being weighed, just the weight of the sample as it's submerged in the water. So armed with that knowledge, I thought, okay, I can build this thing. So I ran off and I modeled up some parts, to see them there, and put together a quick little demonstration for myself, and lo and behold, it worked. So I'm going to show you what we've got here. We're going to run a test, and we're going to run this sample that I've got through it. Let me just show you the sample first. The sample is a puck, actually a muffin tin, that's very much like what you have. And everything I'm going to show you today, I think you have probably got, with the exception of the 3D printed parts. I can help you out there to a small extent. But you could make something, once you see this thing, you could make it out of anything. You could make it out of a coat hanger, for that matter. So, but everybody's got these kind of things. But before I get there, I forgot. I need to tell you what we're going to do mathematically, because it is, you might as well understand it, right? And I'll put a bookmark, I'll bookmark it and say, here's when we actually weigh the sample. So you can skip out to that section if subtracting numbers is too much for you. So I told you that the formula is density equals mass divided by volume. So you can think of that as pounds per square inch, right? That's mass divided by volume. We're going to be using grams, and we're going to be using cubic centimeters because it's so much easier. First thing we need to do, we don't know two things about this sample. I don't know how much it weighs, and I certainly don't know how much volume it takes up. Now, it's not regularly shaped. It's not nice like a cube, right? A cube I could just measure, take length times width times height, get the volume. This thing is got edges that come out. The top is not flat. The bottom's got a little bit of a bulge. It's round. So it's not something I'm just going to be able to measure and accurately get a volume for. Well, if we look at that formula again, density equals mass divided by volume. Mass is easy, right? I can just weigh it dry, and it gets me my mass. That's an easy one to do. Well, it turns out volume is really easy to get as well. Well, way back when, a guy named Archimedes figured out buoyancy. And the way he figured out buoyancy was this. You could weigh an object dry, then you can submerge the object in water and weigh it again. And the difference between the two actually turns out to be, believe it or not, the volume of that object, if we're using the right measurements. So it turns out that a gram of water is equal to 1 cubic centimeter of water. So 1 gram equals 1 cubic centimeter. So if I have something that weighs 5, let's just say it weighs 5 dry, and I weigh it submerged and it weighs 3 submerged, then the difference between the two is 2, right? 5 minus 3 equals 2. Well, it turns out that if I'm doing that in water, and I'm using the metric system, I know, don't flip out, I'm using the metric system, 1 gram of water is equal to 1 cubic centimeter of volume. Well, that's great. if I've got, I had 2, all right, I can't remember, 2. If the difference between 5 and 3 is 2, then turns out that whatever I just weighed, the volume is 2 cubic centimeters. Really handy. Something weighs 100 pounds and or 100 grams dry, and I submerge it and it weighs 80 grams, then the volume is going to be 20. So we can take that knowledge and we can put it to work here in our little contraption that we put together. We're going to weigh something dry, we're going to get its mass, we're going to weigh it submerged, we're going to subtract the 2, and we're going to get its volume. And that is going to get us to our density, right? Because density equals mass divided by volume. So let's look at the contraption that I built, and maybe it'll inspire you to actually build one of your own. Let me change the camera here. All right, so here's my setup for doing the weighing. We have a scale. Most of you have a scale just like this. Got a couple pieces of wood. I think probably most people have got a couple pieces of wood. Actually, I'm going to have a couple more pieces we're going to show you here in just a second. I have a little plastic container full of water, and I have my structure that we're going to set on the scale, just like we showed you in Nate's picture, the green structure we showed you there. I've got a hockey puck kind of ingot, which I'm sure a lot of you have, something shaped just like that. So now we have everything. We're going to turn this guy on, let it zero out, and I'm going to go ahead and put, just to show you that the water is not part of the measurement, I'm going to put these boards on here, show you that it's still 0 before I touch the plastic parts again and move things around. Okay. Still at 0, and then I'm going to put our water on. All right, so everything's set up now. We've got our scale at 0. Let's just make sure. All right, we got everything set up. Our scale is at 0. Take our sample, we'll weigh it dry. Just set it up on top there. Got 191 grams. Now I am going to battle, because I've been doing this off camera, it has been a royal pain in the butt to get this thing to sit on here so I can weigh it underwater. Hopefully it'll just go on there this time and everybody will be happy, including me, especially me. All right, there we go. And you can see the weight underneath. Submerged is 118 grams. Okay, so we got our 2 measures. We've got the 191 dry, 118 submerged. Now we need to do our calculation. So I'm going to put myself back on camera here. Okay, so let's go ahead and run the calculation. And not to be outdone by a real company, Palmer Manufacturing, I wrote my own app. You guys thought I was just a dork in this garage, didn't you? Anyway, I wrote my own app to calculate our specific gravity and the volume of our object. So we put in here our dry weight, which was 191 grams. Below that, I'm going to go ahead and put in the submerged weight, which was 118 grams. Come down lower, click calculate, and what we see is a specific gravity of 2.62. And that's actually, remember, that's equivalent to the density of this thing. This is 2.62 grams per cubic centimeter. That's that's the density of this object. Well, you're saying to yourselves, well, 2 things you're probably saying to yourself. First of all, how do we know any of that's right? Well, I'm going to tell you, here's what I did. I did some highly scientific calculations with my Harbor Freight calipers, and I said, okay, well, there's kind of the middle of that ingot, and let's see what this is. And I measured it out, and I did the math for a cylinder. Came out to 74 cubic centimeters, which is pretty darn close to 73, given the fact that this thing is irregularly shaped. It's taller on this side than it is on that side. There's a lump on the bottom. I'm pretty sure 73 cubic centimeters is exactly right for the volume. Now, 2.62, what does that tell me? Well, first of all, I don't know if you know this or not, but aluminum cans are made up of two different aluminum alloys. The first one is an alloy number, it's called 3004, 3004. And that's what the body of the can is made up from. The lower part, the bulk of the can, well, the bulk of the volume anyway, is 3004. That has a specific gravity, for what it's worth, of 2.8. Okay, remember our number was 2.62. The top of the can is actually made up of another alloy called 5182. 5182 has a specific gravity of 2.7. So, you know, you can probably take the can and say, well, let's split the difference, right? 2.75 would be the specific gravity of a can. Well, we're at 2.62, which is kind of in the ballpark, right? But we're a little bit low, which tells me that our ingot has some gas entrained in it. It's not terrible, but it does have some gas in it. Palmer also produces a chart, which I have shamelessly stolen and reproduced here, that says if your castings have a specific gravity of 2.64 or higher, consider those acceptable. If they have a specific gravity of 2.59 or lower, reject them. And in the middle, there's that orangey, yellowish kind of box sitting there. That's where we fall. And that's where they say, yeah, you know, you got to think about this one. It might be okay. We're in the upper half of that range, so we're not too far off from being acceptable, but we're in the kind of borderline. So that's pretty interesting to me that this little contraption that we have here got very, very close to what an industrial machine is doing. Now, clearly, this is not going to substitute for an industrial machine. So I'm pretty proud of myself. That's it. I wanted to show that to you. I wanted to maybe inspire you thinking, hey, you know what, you could do the same thing. You could test this out at home. You saw the parts that I've got. Here's what I'm going to do for you. I'm going to ask a favor at the end, but here's what I'm going to do for you. I will make the models, not the actual plastic, but the models for my structure available on my online store, plmfoundries.com. I will make that available for free. I will also give away the application that I wrote, bundle it in there for free. All you have to do is go click on it, say buy it. Price is $0, so you should be able to buy it and just download it. It is a Windows application, so if you're trying to run this on a phone or a Mac or something, you're out of luck. Oh, the favor. Here's the favor I want from you. A couple of weeks ago, I put out a video, actually it's been a couple of months now, I put out a video on a thing called the Honor Bell. The Honor Bell is a bell that is down in Denver, Colorado, and it is used at funerals to honor service people that have served and they've died. And so the Honor Bell is a really cool thing. That video has gotten almost no views at all. I'm gonna beg and plead because you know what, they need your love. Give them some love. Just go by and watch it. Find out what the organization is doing. Go out to honorbell.org. If there's a way for you to tell them, hey, I love what you're doing, let them know. They're really good people. They're all volunteers. I've met several of them now. So give them some love. That's my favor. I'm giving you away the software. I'm giving away the model. You go watch Honor Bell, the Honor Bell video. And while you're doing all that, as always, you have a great day.